Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome, everyone joining in. Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening. Thanks for joining. Hopefully, you can all see my screen. Do pop in the chat where you're calling from, whereabouts you're located in the world. It's good afternoon from myself, as I'm based in London, but do pop in the chat wherever you are calling from. That'd be good, so I can wish you a good morning, good afternoon, or a good evening. Cool. Awesome. We'll wait a few moments before kicking off the webinar, and thanks again for joining. Just got flurries of people coming in now. Nice. Cool. Okay. I think we're good to make a start. A few familiar names in the chat, so welcome. Thanks for joining this another Exalate webinar on Jira Service Management and Azure DevOps integration. And this is about optimizing the ITSM and development workflows. So yeah, without further ado, let's crack on. So first of all, we're just going to go over a couple housekeeping rules. I'm sure this isn't your first webinar, but if it is, a very special welcome to you as well. So some housekeeping rules. We've got the chat box there, so we're going to be putting some links in there. Feel free to share, as I said, where you're calling from, any conversations, maybe pop your LinkedIn there if you want to connect with other ITSM professionals on the phone. On the call today. And then we've got the Q&A button as well that you'll see on your screen. So if you've got any specific questions as we're going through this webinar, obviously we want to answer them and we want to have a conversation with you. So pop them in the Q&A part of the on Zoom here. We'll take them, and as you can see on the presentation, we've got a bit of time at the end to go through these questions. So we really want to have this conversation and understand what your questions are, and of course allot some time. So yeah, apart from that, feel free to use the webinar how you will, and thank you again for joining. So let's run through a bit of an introduction. So what we're going to cover today, we're going to cover, so going back to the main title, we're going to cover this Jira Service Management and Azure DevOps integration. So the solution of how we're going to achieve that is Exalate, and we're going to get into two use cases today. We're going to do a live demo, rather brave, some may say, not for us, we're fine with it. And the demos will cover two separate use cases, exercising how this integration would work and how we can optimize those workflows, of course. And then, as I said, we'll save some time at the end to speak and cover these questions that you may have. So yeah, on with the show. So you're probably wondering who these other chaps are with me. So yeah, Javier, Support Engineering Community Manager. You may have seen his name in the Exalate community. We were just chatting actually and making a joke about how I've got quite a common name, George Smith, and Javier told us that he is actually the only Javier Pozuelo in the whole of Costa Rica, where it's based. So I think we have an extra unique reason to be grateful for Javier joining us on this webinar. And he's been with the business for about a month or so. So we naturally have to throw him into another one of me and Majid's integration webinars. So yeah, and of course we're joined by Majid as well, Head of Support and Service. Javier, do you want to say hello, introduce yourself?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for the fun fact, George. As he said, I'm the support engineer and community manager at Exalate. And this is actually my very first webinar. So I hope I can share valuable Exalate knowledge with everyone here.
I'm sure. Awesome. And Majid?
Hey everyone, nice to meet you again. I see some familiar names in the attendees list, so very good to see everybody joining. And yeah, as Javier said, I am for a change taking a back seat on this one. Enjoy the role.
Nice.
Thank you.
Awesome. Perfect. So yeah, great to have you guys with us, of course. So yeah, let's get into this. So integration. So what is integration all about if we zoom out? Integration is not about compromising how your platforms work. It's about optimizing and getting more out of each platform. It's about linking a complete feedback loop between these two platforms, which often exist, without any connection. So it's about getting more out of each platform and allowing teams to work together, obviously across tools. So yes, how is this done? What is Exalate? So Exalate's an integration solution. It's an app. You can see all these logos on the screen here. hopefully the Azure DevOps and Jira logo are familiar to us all on the webinar. Of course, we have a new addition to the family, to the Exalate family. We have recently just brought out an Exalate connector for Freshdesk, which is really exciting. So worth a mention. But of course, today we're going to focus just on Azure DevOps and JSM, Jira Service Management from Jira. So how does Exalate work? Exalate is a dedicated app that you install on each side. You can imagine it like a super user almost on each platform, updating comments, tickets, etc. And we'll get into that shortly. It allows each platform to sort of live independently and decide how it wants to collaborate and how it wants to integrate with the other teams and other platforms. So yeah, and that a really interesting part about Exalate is that it's done through scripting, and of course through AI assisted scripting as well, and through these groovy scripts that we're going to show you today how this is done, and then we're also going to show you some of the AI assistant in some of the use cases that we're going to cover as well. The scripting allows us to meet a lot of requirements, a wide range of business use cases. It gives you that flexibility and control. We are talking about, ticket data leaving a site and going into another one. It's paramount that we remain in control of that. And also coding is a little bit more fun. You get a little bit more power, a lot more flexibility, of course, than just a UI interface. So yeah, we are, as I said, we are going to give you a bit of a test run on the AI assist. Those that are in the webinar that use Exalate already may have seen it. So we're going to show you a bit more about that today. It of course follows the normal AI route that I'm sure everyone is using at the moment, sort of prompting and then having these this configuration populated in. So yeah, the point on the agenda we were going to talk about, of course, is the use cases. So how can we actually implement this in organizations? What do we do day in, day out? So it's a really popular use case that we cover. Naturally, you would have Jira Service Management as your customer support desk, and you'll have a flurry of tickets being created, support tickets in there. And then, of course, creating them as bugs in Azure DevOps is a prime use case. So usually that just stops, and when tickets get escalated in organizations to Azure DevOps, then you end up losing visibility. So yeah, I see someone raise a hand. If you've got any questions, feel free to put them in the chat as well, and we'll happily answer them. Got some members of the Exalate team on the call as well. So if we dig our teeth into the use case itself and see, what are we actually doing here in this JSM to Azure DevOps use case? So as I mentioned, tickets will be raised in JSM. And then obviously you don't want to send across all tickets to DevOps. That wouldn't go down very well, as I'm sure you'd imagine. So we just want to take a subset of those tickets, those that have been escalated, to be made into a bug and to be fixed and resolved. And of course, we want to have the correct ticket entity, which is like the request type or the work item type, and of course the priority and status, because devs or the engineering team in Azure DevOps need to know how important this is, what's the status, etc. So you can close that feedback loop between the two tools. So that's the first use case. The second use case, we're going to flip it around the other side. So Exalate is bidirectional by default, of course. But in this one, this is a really nice sort of way to exercise the tool. So Azure DevOps and Jira do an amazing job at having this hierarchy structure within their tickets. And of course, that needs to be respected in the escalation and also just collaboration process, right? As I mentioned at the beginning, this is about optimizing how the tools work together, and we don't want to compromise anything. So in this way, then we can have the epics being created in Azure DevOps, and then likewise with all their relations and hierarchy, of course, being created in JSM in Jira as well. So it's a really interesting case that we'll get onto a little bit down the line in the webinar. So yeah, that's a brief introduction and all for me for now. I'll hand it over to Javier. I'll stop my screen share, and then do you want to start sharing your screen and we can crack on with the rest of the webinar?
Yeah, definitely. So first of all, let's start by setting up a connection. So we'll go ahead and go to our Jira Cloud Exalate console. So to initiate a connection, we first of all need to add the remote URL. So it's going to give us 3 different connection modes. for this specific use case, we'll use the script mode since it's the most flexible one. Then we place a short name for the local instance. We'll do support to development. Okay, use case 1. Then we select the project in which we want our tickets to be created. In this case, we'll select support to dev. Now it's going to give us an invitation code. Invitation code. Let me start again. It seems I might need to refresh the Exalate console. Okay. For some reason, it didn't show the invitation code, but yeah, we'll send it to the development team. In this case, we'll just add it in. Okay. We also need to select the project on the remote side as well. So we'll do exactly that. Okay. And we can start configuring our sync, but let's test just the default synchronization settings that comes within the connection. So let's create a new ticket. Let's assign the suggest a new feature request type. Let's just say this is the first request. Okay. Let's add a description and let's create a ticket. Okay. So to manually escalate a request to the remote ADO system, you can find the Exalate sync panel on the right side issue view. So let's open it and select the Exalate operation. Now we select the connection and we click on Exalate. Currently, Exalate is creating a ticket on the remote system. Once this operation is successful, it will provide inside the sync panel the remote issue link. And of course, we don't want to do this manually. This is where triggers come in, which I will later on explain. They allow us to sync automatic tickets through the remote system. So let's check this first request. And let's send a comment back to Jira Cloud. So let's say from ADO to Jira Cloud. Okay, now we're syncing the summary, the first request. We're syncing the description, and we will see if we can bidirectionally sync a comment back to Jira Cloud. We can see that the work item was created as a task, so we're not syncing the work item type just yet. We'll do that later on. So let's take a look at our Jira Cloud issue and see if we can correctly send a comment back to Jira Cloud. Let's take a look. It might take just a moment for the comment to arrive. Let's refresh our Jira Cloud. Okay, perfect. We can see that the comment has just arrived. So we can continue with our exercises. But first of all, we can see that the summary, description, and comments are already syncing bidirectionally. And actually, as I've explained earlier, I mentioned the triggers in Exalate. Triggers allows you to start sync automatically. So we have a filter in which we decide which syncs get automatically synced to the remote system. For this specific use case, we have created a trigger which says, if our project equals support and our request type is either report a bug or request a new feature, suggest a new feature, it will get synced to the remote system. So before we dive in and test our trigger and start testing with added scripts, I believe it's important for me to explain what the replica is in Exalate. So basically, the replica is just a synchronized copy of an issue from one system to another. This to ensure data consistency between both systems. So in the outgoing sync processor, the replica is just a copy of the information we choose to transfer to the destination system. And in the incoming sync processor is, well, just the copy of the issue that arrives to the source system. And we can choose whatever changes we want to reflect in this side, okay? So let's start with our first use case, which George will refresh our memory of the support to development.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and it's great to see just that quickly, being able to create tickets and have that connection already and optimize that process. So yeah, just a quick refresher on this side of things. Obviously, Javier spoke about that trigger. We don't want all the support tickets going over to DevOps. We only want the ones that would make sense, right? So the bug or a feature request. So yeah, we need to make sure that we're mapping that the ticket type and then the priority and status as well. So yeah, first of all, making sure we get that ticket type right. Javier, how does that work if we've got two systems and they're calling them different things?
Yeah, let me explain. Let's actually show you the scripts of this first exercise. Since we're only aiming to create tickets from Jira Cloud to Azure DevOps, we don't need to modify the incoming of Jira Cloud or the outgoing of Azure DevOps. So what we're doing here is we're adding the request type of Jira Cloud to the replica. And on the Azure DevOps, we receive that replica and we create a work item type mapping. So we need to map the different values of each system. We have the Jira Cloud report a bug and we map it to an Azure DevOps bug. We do the same thing with suggest a new feature. We map it to ADO feature. Or down here, we fetch the value, the string value of the request type object so we can correctly map it. And then we assign it to the system field. But over here, we're also adding a default value just in case the value in the replica it is not found or it is null. So let's start testing this things. Well, first of all, the Exalate team will be sharing the Bitbucket snippets for both use cases in the comments, so you can check those out. We have a snippet for the first use case and another one for the second use case, which is a bit more complex. Okay, so let's head to our Jira Cloud side of the connection. And actually, let's use this example to add the request type in the replica. We just need to, well, we can choose whatever name we want to assign in the replica, but to maintain some order, I will assign the same name, which is request type. And this is all we need to do in Jira Cloud for this specific exercise. So let's publish the connection. And let's go to the Azure DevOps side. And we'll need to copy this whole first sync statement and replace the one we have on the connection already. Okay, so that's it for this part. So let's publish the connection. Since this script that we have added acts on issue creation, we'll need to create a new request in Jira Cloud. And I actually forgot something very important. As I said, we don't want to manually sync this item. So let's add our trigger. So to add our trigger, you can either go to the sync panel option over here, or you can go to the section in the connection itself. So let's add our trigger. Let's activate it and add it. Perfect. So now we can go ahead and create our ticket. Let's create one for the suggest a new feature. Let's name it feature request number 1. Let's add a short description and done. And since we expect this request to be picked up by our trigger, let's go ahead and create another one for the report a bug request type. So let's do bug request number 1. A short description, and let's take a look at our tickets. Let's open the sync panel. Okay, perfect. We can see that it was already picked up by our trigger. So let's open this one. Let's do the same thing for the bug request. Great. Okay, now as the previous first exercise that we did, which we just created a ticket with the basic default settings that the connection has, we can now see that the bug was correctly mapped in ADO. Same thing with the feature. So now we're mapping the work item types correctly in ADO, and we can continue with the, our second exercise.
Yeah, and that's so important that they are actually created as the correct, type. So that's great to see. So I guess naturally the next step is, oh, this is a bug or a feature request. How important is this? What is the priority? And so that's really key. So does it work in a similar way? How do we do the mapping for priority?
Yeah, we can use same idea that we used in the previous exercise. Since we have different values in each system, we do have to create a mapping once again. And in this case, we have integer values in Azure DevOps for the priority, and we have strings in Jira Cloud. So we'll map ADO 1 to Jira Cloud highest, 2 to high, 3 to medium, and 4 to low, same idea. We'll assign a default value, and then we'll assign it to the system field. We'll do the exact same thing on ADO. We just swap the order of the mapping. And for the outgoing sync, you don't really need to modify anything in your connections. This is already included in the basic connection settings. Let's take a look. You can see that the priority is already found in our outgoing sync. So let's just go ahead to our Bitbucket snippet and let's copy the required script for each side. So after we add this part, we can publish our connection. And let's do the same thing for ADO. Perfect. So after we're done adding our script, we can go ahead and test this new scripts that we have added. So we have the bug over here. Let's open the feature request. Perfect. Okay, so we said that we're mapping highest to 1, high to 2, minimum 3, and 4 low. So this is a feature request. Let's actually say that this is low priority. So let's change it to low, and we expect a 4 on Azure DevOps. Let's change it for the bug request. This would be the highest priority. So let's check if we can correctly change the priority. And okay, we can see that it was already created. That was fast. Let's see for the bug. Perfect. So now we can see that it was correctly synced as the highest priority in Azure DevOps. So now the development team know the severity of the request that comes from the support team, so they can correctly address it in their side as well. So we can continue with the third and final exercise of this use case. George, can you go ahead?
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. So that's great to see as well, that priority. Hopefully there's not many highest priority bugs coming through. But yeah, that's great to have that collaboration. But I guess with the status side of things, this must get more complicated. And that really brings the feedback loop of that ticket together, right? So that JSM can see the status from DevOps. And that's, I think, quite valuable. Of course, we know that within Jira, you can't just transition from one state to any state. And there's a really strict sort of workflow to it. So I'm interested to see, is it the same approach? How does that work? I can imagine it getting a bit more complicated.
Yeah. So it's a similar approach. We do need to create a mapping for each side, since of course we have different values in each system. And we do need to set the statuses mapped and through the hash map. So same thing with the priority. We don't need to to include this in our code, it's already added. And we can see that we're mapping in Jira Cloud, the remote side is new, active, and resolved, and we're mapping to Jira Cloud statuses to do, in progress, and done. Same thing with ADO. We get the mapped value, and then we set it via the work item set status. So let's go ahead and test it out. Let's go to our Bitbucket snippet. Let's copy the status mapping found over here. Let's include it in our code. Perfect. Let's publish our connection. And let's actually try something different. Let's not copy our script just yet in Jira Cloud. Let's use the AI Assist tool. So let's give it a prompt of what we need. So let's say, well, I need to synchronize the ADO statuses. Sorry if I make any typos. The AI Assist tool works very well with typos, but still, active, and finally it was resolved, I believe. Perfect. And now we need to say with the corresponding values in Jira, which are statuses, to do, in progress, capitalization is very important, and finally it was done. Okay, so let's give it the prompt, and let's see what it generates. So now it's processing the request, it's generating a script, and it will share it with us, and it will ask us to review the script and decide whether we want to add it or not in our script. So let's just wait a moment for it to give us the hash map of the statuses. And okay, that was fast. Perfect. So let's review our script. We have the status map. We map new to do, active to in progress, resolved to done. Perfect. We define the remote status name. We get the name of the replica.status, and then we set the status. That looks perfect. So let's insert the changes. Great. Now we can publish our connection and start testing this script. Okay. So first of all, let's change the status of the feature request. Okay. Let's change it to in progress. So now we expect in Azure DevOps to change the state from new to active. Okay, we can see that it was already done. And let's say this thing was already addressed by our development team in Azure DevOps, and they have resolved the feature. They have included the feature in the product, and they mark it as resolved. So we should get an update back in Jira Cloud, so they can correctly track the progress of the development of these features or these bugs. So let's take a look. It's currently in progress, but at any moment it should be resolved by the remote development team. Let's take a look. Let's maybe refresh our issue view screen. Okay. The update hasn't arrived. Let's see our sync panel over here. Okay, we can see that it was synchronized. Let's take a look. Perfect. Now, now the support team can correctly track the progress. So the status has been changed to done. So this would conclude the final exercise of the first use case, and we can continue with a more complex use case, which is the product to support.
Yeah, of course, onto the hierarchy stuff. But yeah, that first use case so easily done as well. Seeing the AI work its magic there was awesome, and just bringing that hash map to life immediately. So that's really valuable for Exalate users. So that sounds great. So the second use case, this is a little bit more complex. As we mentioned, these hierarchy structures that the tools have can be so important to how you're sort of running your operations and using the platforms, right? So we really want to be able to respect that. And so in this use case, we're going to have a similar fashion with the exercises, of course, and explore how we can have epics and user stories created. And then, of course, with the hierarchy and the relations and the links, but still keep the status involved as well, going from Azure DevOps to Jira this time. So yeah, at first, Javier, we just want to take over that epic with its child issues, but maintain it all in Jira as it's come from Azure DevOps.
Yeah. So this is in unidirectional sync. It's just the product team updating the support team on the all the upcoming features. We don't really want the support team sending updates back to the product team. So no need to update the incoming sync of this connection at any point. We'll just add script to our outgoing ADO script. Perfect. So for this exercise, we'll just need to do something very simple, which is add the parent ID of the work item to our replica. And then let's take a look at the Jira Cloud side. Okay. Now we get a little bit more complex. If this is the first time syncing the issue, we first of all assign it to the project, and we map the issue types. Same name with the epic, but we change it for the user story. So we map ADO user story to Jira Cloud story. And we save the current state of the issue, and then we head over to the mapping of the parent issues. So we check the incoming issue, whether the incoming issue has a parent via the replica.parent ID. We then find the corresponding local issue in Jira via the sync helper method, get local issue key from remote ID. And if the parent exists, we set the epic link to ensure the issue is properly linked to its parent in Jira. So let's try this out. Okay, since this is a whole different use case, we do need another connection. We don't want to use the same connection for different teams. So let's go ahead and let's initiate our connection, this time from the Azure DevOps side. So let's initiate the connection by adding the Jira Cloud URL. Same thing, it will give us 3 options. We still want the most versatile mode, which is the script one. And let's place a local instance short name, which will be product to support. Excuse 2. And let's select our project and send the invitation to our support team. So let's accept the invitation over here. And let's select the project, which in this case will change to the product one. Perfect. Now we can start configuring our sync. Great. So now we need to swap over to our webinar use case number 2 snippet. And let's start by adding the ADO outgoing Groovy snippet part. Let's publish our connection. And let's do the same thing with the Jira Cloud side. And we'll need to copy from line 1 to line 20 and replace the whole first sync statement that we have already added. Perfect. We can publish the changes. And we don't want to be syncing this issues manually. So I have prepared a very simple trigger for this use case. which it just says that if the work item is created in the specific project, it will get automatically synced. It's very simple, but it matches our use case. Okay. So let's go ahead and let's create a couple of work items. First of all, we'll start with an epic, and we'll name it epic test number 1. We'll add a short description and we'll save it. Since we expect this to be picked up by the trigger, let's just go ahead and create a couple of child issues for this epic. Let's do user story number 1. Okay, number 1. Let's add the link. Set the description, and we'll save it. Okay, we can see that it was already processed by the ADO side. Now waiting for the confirmation on Jira Cloud. And let's add another one so we can see multiple child and parent relationships. Let's add another one. User story number 2. Let's add the link. Perfect. So now we have the epic parent with 2 relationships with our parent and child relationships. So let's take a look at our remote epic. Okay. Well, we can see that the first user story was already added to the epic. We can see that it was correctly created as an epic in Jira Cloud. Let's take a look at our user story. Taking a little bit to load. Perfect. And we can see that it was correctly created as a story, and we added the epic link. Great. So now let's see if we can load the second user story. Perfect. So now we're syncing the epic and child relationships in ADO to Jira Cloud and maintaining that parent and child relationship as well in Jira Cloud. So now we can continue with our final and more complex exercise, which is the last one of the use case number 2.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's great to see that hierarchy being added and it just actually being, much more depth than just like a field mapping, right? So it's doing much more impressive things. So yeah, the final exercise that we're going to demonstrate is synchronizing that epic with its relations and also to maintain those issue links in Jira Cloud. So yeah, again, it is getting slightly more complex, but we're allowing that functionality to happen and sort of be dictated from both sides, which is really, really interesting. Over to you.
Yeah. So thanks, George, once again for the explanation. Let's take a look at our scripts. Okay, getting a little bit more complex over here. Now we're using the API. Okay, so let's take a look. If we want to, so what we're aiming is to maintain the relationships in ADO and send them to Jira Cloud as issue links. So we'll be needing to send all the relations from a work item. How do we do that? First of all, we need to fetch all the relations of our work item via the ADO REST API. And then we add them to the replica.relations. So now that we are sending all the relations to the Jira Cloud side, let's see what we do. Okay. A bit more complex even. So what are we doing over here? So first of all, we're looping through all the relations in the incoming issue via the replica.relations.each, and we check if the relation is labeled as related. We extract the local equivalent issue key via the same sync helper method that we used before, the get local issue key from remote ID. We ensure that the issue is not already linked to the issue. If it is not already linked, we add the issue link via the Jira REST API, marking as a relates relationship. So let's test this final use case. So let's copy our script from the ADO side. Let's add it to our going sync. Now we're adding the relations to the replica. We can publish this side of the connection. And finally, let's copy from line 22 to 47 and copy it in our Jira Cloud incoming sync. So a good thing about this script is you can adapt it to whatever you want, to whatever matches your use case. So let me share it. Let's say the Azure DevOps team is now sending the child and parent relationships, but they have another epic and they want to relate it to this first epic that we have created, and they want to send that over and maintain the issue links in Jira Cloud. And you can use this script to whatever matches your use case. You can send the successor or duplicate or tested by. You just need to correctly map it in Jira Cloud using the script that I've just shared. So for this use case, let's just do related. Let's create another epic. Let's do epic test number 2. Let's add the link. Let's save it. Perfect. Let's take a look at our epic test. At any moment, it should be picked up by our trigger. So let's take a look at our first epic that we created. And we should see in any moment the issue link being added as a relates to. We can see that it was already created. Let's take a look. Perfect. So now we are able to link epics with epics in case they are related. But as I've said earlier, you can add more link types. You can do blocks, you can do duplicates, you can do related. So now we have the first epic with the child issues and with its linked issues. So this would conclude the final exercise of the presentation.
Awesome. Nice. Yeah, no, that was brilliant. So went really into depth. I hope everyone was able to follow. And I don't know if we have actually any questions in the Q&A. I think Javier did an amazing job at just going through that in such a precise and an explanatory way. So no, thank you. That was all really crystal clear. If you just click onto the next couple slides, we had prepared a space for a question, but we can glide over that. So yeah, that begins to sort of bring the webinar to an end. So thank you all very much for joining. Really appreciate your time. Thank you for all those that have stuck around as well, with pretty much everyone from the beginning. So do get in touch if you have any questions. We're here to help. I promise I'll be as smiley as this picture if you did want to get in touch and book a call. But likewise, you can head to the Exalate website to find out more information about us. And yeah, that concludes the webinar this time. Thank you all very much for joining. Appreciate it. Javier, thank you very much, Majid, and the Exalate team behind the scenes for organizing everything. We'll wrap things up there. Everyone enjoy the rest of your day. Cheers all. Thanks.